Well, we're celebrating the strength of the Democratic Party and just the phenomenal impact that the Democratic legislators had to stop the governor from doing such damaging things to our state, starting with trying to repeal a revenue stream coming into our state that we really do need, committed and dedicated to improving health outcomes for people. We stopped the untimely merger of Southern and UNO, which was not handled at all well and a real affront to many of our students, and particularly the history of education in the African American community. So this group has done quite a good job of trying to keep the priorities for Louisiana where they need to be, investing in people, creating jobs and education, and honoring state workers, not trying to stomp all over them. And so we have a great message tonight. The room is overflowing, and we have a great speaker in the new senator from Delaware.
I don't know about you, but in my view, leadership at the local level, at the national level, means sticking to your business. It doesn't mean fear-mongering. It doesn't mean blaming others. It doesn't mean pointing a finger back. It means showing a way forward. And I don't always agree with our president. But in the last week, when he said, look, it's time to get down to it, and it's time to get serious, and the Republican leadership in the House just up and walked away, was it once? Was it twice? Was it 3 times? Was it 4 times? At some point, the job is to sit together, to compromise, to get everything on the table, recognize we're all in this together, and get the job done. And you know, in my view, someone needs to tell the Republicans in Washington and in Baton Rouge that if they're not ready to come to the table and do the hard work and make the reasonable compromises, they can look for a new line of work. And I think I've met a couple of people here tonight who are pretty eager to help them. Now, as Senator Landrieu said when she introduced me, I was not expected to win. When my wife and I, with our 3 young kids, spent a long night praying over whether or not to jump into this race, I said to her, honey, we're going to work our heart out. We're going to put everything on the table. We're going to put everything in this race. And I tell you, we may well come up a few points short. But I can't not run this race for Delaware. I've met some great people tonight. I am confident that in this room tonight, you have the people who can build on their experience, who can build on your strength across this state, who can build on your foundation in your values, your willingness to fight for clean air and clean water, your willingness to fight to hold BP accountable for what happened in the Gulf, your willingness to defend collective bargaining, your willingness to stand up for rights for everyone, your willingness to care enough to make this state and this country more inclusive, more tolerant, and more just, your willingness to fight for education, for children you don't yet know, your willingness to pull together. Because you know, at the end of the day, if you know the values that you have, if you know in the stillness of your hearts what you've been called to do, you can do great things. You can surprise yourself. It doesn't take magic, and it doesn't take a crazy opponent. You can make history in Louisiana again. I will tell you that you were the subject of prayer by not just this whole nation, but the whole world. You were the subject of patient, prayerful hope, of joy as recovery began, of celebration at the first signature events when the Saints won the Super Bowl, to when we saw recovery coming. And I will tell you, at times, I have grieved over this state, as it seems that time and time and time again, fate or providence brought you challenges that were greater and greater than any state in this country has known. But if you listened to Governor Blanco's speech at the beginning of this evening, you heard a woman who, with faith and character and heart, has overcome things in her life unlike any I've heard. A woman who my mother would describe as having moxie. And I will tell you, please, a round of applause for Governor Blanket. And I will tell you, if there is any senator in this country who can lead you forward, it is Senator Mary Landrieu. Are there any Democrats in Baton Rouge tonight? Are there any Democrats in Baton Rouge tonight? Now let me just tell you what I've seen and what I've heard, what I will go home to tell my wife when I see her tomorrow. I met in Baton Rouge tonight an incredible room full of people who, as I look at you, reflect the richness and the strength of the diversity of this state. I have met people whose hearts are strong, whose sense of their values are clear. I have met people who know the challenge in front of them and the opportunity, because in adversity lies opportunity. As the Tea Party moves and moves and moves, and as they go farther and farther right so that the right hand doesn't seem to know what the farther right hand is doing, we will have opportunities. Because just as I emerged from obscurity to serve as a United States Senator, so too will people in this room tonight. Because the right wing will overplay their hand. They will not make the hard choices. They will not solve problems, and they will not lead. They will fight with each other, they will eat their young, and they will overplay their hand. That's your path forward. So folks, in closing, to Senator LaFleur, to Representative Edwards, to your great party chair, to Buddy and Laura Leach, to Mary Landrieu, I will close with this. Martin Luther King once said, "The arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice." The future of the Louisiana Democratic Party bends towards justice and is strong. God bless you, and good night.
Thank you, Senator. It's so great to hear a Democrat remind all of us why we are Democrats. And we do appreciate very much Senator Coons making the effort to fly down, make the speech, and go back, go to work tomorrow. Thank you again, Senator. We look forward to your friendship for many years.
I was thrilled to be invited by Senator Mary Landrieu to join Democrats from across Louisiana to be a part of the annual Jefferson-Jackson dinner here in Baton Rouge. I serve with Senator Landrieu on the Energy Committee, and like her, I believe that we need to get back to our primary focus, helping create high-quality jobs, helping ensure America's energy independence, being serious about making the tough choices ahead to strengthen our schools, to strengthen our country, to strengthen our balance sheet, and to give our whole community a vibrant future.
80% of the penalties from the Gulf Coast oil spill. BP has to pay a substantial penalty. We'd like 80% of that money dedicated to coastal states. I'm leading that effort and just got all the Gulf Coast senators except for one signed on. That's a good sign. We still have a long way to go. We're trying to accelerate our revenue sharing and lift the cap so that Louisiana can be treated more fairly, and we'll actually have a long-term revenue stream to secure our coast. So we've got our plate full, and looking forward to continuing to work there for the people of our state.
Most people are familiar with the Secretary of State because of elections, and obviously that's the chief function of the office. However, it's very integral to economic development, and in this economic climate where everyone is struggling to find a job, keep the job they have, and continue to grow our economy, Secretary of State is integral to that effort.
people are starting to focus again on the fact that Democrats stand for working people, poor people, and common, ordinary, middle-class folks. And I'm just excited about the opportunity that we have to continue this resurgence. And I know that we are striking a chord because I'm out across the state every single day, and I see what's going on. I'm very excited about it.
We've had individuals who've always been out front, making sure that the rights of people have always been taken into account. And we want to continue that facet of the Democratic Party. We want to grow the party. We want people in Louisiana to realize that Democrats are their friends, that we do look at Louisiana citizens and we work for Louisiana citizens first. We want to see jobs, we want to see good health care, and we want to make sure that our children have quality education. And that's the basic mission of our state from Democrats. We also want to make sure that the health care for the disabled and the elderly are also protected. So we want to see Democrats there, and we look forward to seeing as many of us as we can get elected as possible.
I think they're going to be wanting to consider, when they vote for their representatives and senators, they're going to want to consider, for example, the cuts at education that has gone through in the last 3 years, cuts in higher ed at the amount of about 20 to 25%. Secondary and elementary education cuts, not increases, I guess I should say, but it's really cuts of about 10%. You know, if you're really going to make education a high priority in Louisiana, as it has been a high priority it was a high priority for Governor Blanco, it was a high priority for Governor Foster. We thought it was going to be a high priority for Governor Jindal, but it turns out that it's become less of a priority than we expected. And there's not a family in Louisiana that doesn't think that's the top of the list. But if you look at priorities and the way we spent money in the last couple of years, it just really, truly hasn't been a high priority.
We've got our eyes on the people's future. You know, the governor, unfortunately, spends a lot of time thinking about his own political future, and if he'd spend a little bit more time thinking about the future of the people of Louisiana, I think we would be better off. So focused on jobs, education, infrastructure, high-speed rail, new industries for Louisiana, growing the industries that are already here. I think Democrats have their priorities straight and always put Louisiana first and don't get caught up too much in the ideological battles that go on in Washington that really put no food on the table, bring no jobs to the state. But state Democrats know how to fight for the people here, and that's why this room is overflowing tonight.